Welcome, TIL, to our Pastor's Perspective podcast, where we talk to our pastor and leader on different topics and current events that's going on today. And today we have two special guests with us, and we will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Coleman, and a divorced mother of 4 children, grown children. And currently, I am happily single.
Amen.
And I am Jewell, Harrell, leader over our great SALT ministry here at TIL.
Singles.
Single Adults Living True. I am single and waiting.
Amen. It's good. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank y'all for joining us.
And we definitely wanted to continue this conversation, as Angelo has alluded to, and we wanted to invite these sisters to kind of give their perspective. I know the name of the show is Pastor's Perspective, but we're going to get the perspectives of these two beautiful sisters on their history, their past, and currently where they are, and what it is that God is going to do in their life. And I'm going to give it back to the host.
So, Ms. Coleman, you mentioned earlier that you were not sure if you were interested in taking that route again. What happened? What about your first marriage that has kind of gotten you on the fence of moving forward with that again?
Well, I recall, and I was thinking about this on the way here, I thought, you had that fairy tale type mentality that, once you got married. Well, first I thought I was getting old when I married my children's father. I was 26 years old, and I'm thinking, oh, you know what? Everybody was getting married around that time, and I'm like, I'm gonna be an old maid and at 26, and so I kind of forced the hand, put the cart before the horse. I got pregnant first, and I was in the church. I had been in the church for about 8 years, but I remember thinking everybody was getting married and I wanted to be married, and so here come this Joe Blow came by and said the right things, and there I went, bam, and then I got married and tried to make it work. It was like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and it just don't fit. But I stayed because I wanted the marriage to work, and so. When it didn't work, and now it's okay. I'm okay with it now because that part, I wouldn't have my children if it wasn't for the marriage. I wouldn't be the person that I am if it had not been for the things that I've gone through. And it wasn't so much. I don't look at it now and look at it as a bad experience. It was just a detour of life, and so.
Well, how long were you married?
I stayed with him till God released me, and it was 3 years. And when God released me, I remember when he released me because my pastor confirmed it, and he said, you got your answer. I said, yeah, because I was praying, God, save him or move him. If you're going to be here, we're going to do this, save him or move him. I wasn't going to leave the church, though. I didn't leave the church, and that's a hard thing because folks be looking at you involved in everything, and church back then was brutal. Right. If you came short. Right. If you came up short, they were brutal. And I alluded to that last week on the last week podcast where he said he was saved. He said all the right things, but you knew. So, in order for me to have the peace that I have now, I had to remove myself, but I had to wait, and I had to stay there until the fullness of time came, until everything was fulfilled that needed to be fulfilled, and then when God released me, then it was okay to go.
Ms. Jewell, what was it about marriage that made you take that step to get married in the first place?
Well, for me, I grew up in my home with my mother and my father, who were married 5 years before I came along, and still married today at like 50 years now.
Wow.
So, of course, growing up in a home with both of my parents, that seed was planted. Like, I've always just been a family-oriented person. Like, you're supposed to grow up, get married, have kids, live happily ever after. Now, it's not to say that's how it was growing up, but that's the image that's set in my mind. So I actually, growing up, I dreamed about getting married all the time. Like, as a teenager, you know, it was like, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to get married, I'm going to fall in love, I'm going to get married, and I'm going to live happily ever after. Now, life did not deal me those cards,
Right.
but that was what I wanted. That was my desire. I've always loved the sanctity of marriage. So I would say it was that seed that was planted in me from when I was younger, growing up, seeing my mom and my dad together.
You said that, I'm gonna let Angelo pick it back up, but you said you had that idea, that thought, and I think one of the sessions I was in with you, we were doing the singles ministry. It seemed like I remember you saying that you know, the like the Ken doll, the Ken and Barbie and all that, and you just a little picture with and all that. What's your take on, you know, because I know I've spoken to, you know, you can have that expectation, you can have that idea that you're looking for, and I know I've said a couple times, I know it's a little one of them kind of statements like, what's your take on lowering your expectations as relates to when you get married? Not lowering your expectation with the person you're marrying. I know you got to make sure you keep that top shelf. But when you come into the relationship, what was different? I guess my point is, what was different about your picture perfect marriage that you had in mind, and then reality?
Oh, wow. It was totally different. And like you said, I did grow up with that Barbie Ken mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I was a Barbie girl. I had everything Barbie, and I did grow up with that. I wanted the Barbie and Ken life. You know, the house, the car, the kids, the dog, the 2-car garage with the white picket fence on the hill. You know,
Right. The whole
I had
thing.
it all planned out, like right. And so my first experience, because you know, and I'll just go ahead and say, my experience with marriage has been multiple times. Mm-hmm. That's not a badge I wear proudly, but life happens. But, you know, just hindsight, it was supposed to be just one.
Right, sure.
And so I think my initial approach to marriage, I really think, honestly, I did it the right way the first time.
Okay.
But we were young,
I got
you know, and other factors came into play where it was like, okay, then, you know, this one didn't work. I'll just try it again, you know, and then it got worse and worse and worse. So then, you know, now fast forward to the age I am now, looking back, it was like, you know, I probably shouldn't have made that left turn back at Albuquerque,
Right.
you know, you know,
It's a
you
dead
know,
end,
right,
dead end. No.
right. So I guess, you know, you do have this picture in your mind of what you want it to be, and plus now the world has changed so much now. I don't think that part of me has changed. Mm-hmm. I still love the sanctity of marriage. I still want to be married because that's just who I am. I'm just never been the person to just date and just explore. It's just not me. No offense to people that do, because you know, some people, that's their way of living. But for me, I wanted that initial seed that was planted in me. What I would do differently this time, though, even being in a place of I would do it again, but this time my focus is I want what God wants.
That's good.
You know, I'm not willing to sway to the left, to the right. It's like, okay, God, if this is not you, I don't want it. You know what I mean? Because, you know, the word tells us, lean not to our own understanding, you know, and all our ways acknowledge him. He'll direct our path. So I didn't always do that in the past. Like, sure. I didn't always, I leaned too much to my understanding. And yeah, that didn't work out so well. Right. So I would say this time is just, I'm in a content spot of, I desire to be married again if that's what God wants. And if that's not what he wants, then help me to be content where I am. And I'll just, you know, continue to serve on the SOUT ministry, the singles ministry.
Singles,
yes.
Right. Right.
To you, Ms. Coleman, what are some of the things that you expected marriage to be about, and then when you entered marriage, it wasn't what you thought it would be?
Well, I thought if I love them, that they love me, then we can be a family.
Right.
You know,
that sounds like a song.
Right. You know, you thinking you know, they're thinking the same thing. I love you, you know, and women, for women, we go in, I know men do too, but for most, because I met men who have loved, they love, women love, they love with, you know, you the one, then you're the one.
Right.
You know, you are the one, and I won't give 100%, I'm going to give 150%.
Right.
I'm giving you my all. And then for you to turn around and give me your backside,
Right.
you know, you're like, okay, did I sign up for this?
Right.
And I didn't understand all of the, you know, and I came from a family where my sisters have been married 36 years. My baby sister, she's been married since she was 20. My brother-in-law was 19.
Wow.
They got 36 years of marriage. And then the other sister, you know, so and my parents was 61 to 62 years married. So I saw good examples.
Sure.
I saw good examples. I saw, you know, how it's supposed to be done. So I'm thinking, well, all I got to do is love them, and then they'll love me back, and then we're going to, you know, and it wasn't like that. And so when that wasn't the truth, then I was like, okay, how do I fix this now? How do I, you know, I didn't want to break the family up. I wanted to stay for the family, keep the family together. No matter what he did, keep the family together. You just want to keep the family. You want to keep, you know, when things were bad, he leave. When I got things all right again, he come back.
Wow.
You know, so you were going back and forth, this back and forth type thing. And I was the one that nobody thought would ever have children, and I ended up with 4. So I was the one you know, I wanted to be married, but I just didn't know. I didn't see that. I didn't see all of that. And it's not because I didn't have examples. And well, first of all, I didn't hear God.
Right.
I mean, I heard God, but I didn't.
Right, sure.
I heard God.
Right.
I can't say, oh, well, I didn't know why nobody tell me that he wasn't the right one. Well, I knew he wasn't the right one because God said it, and I didn't listen. I felt like I was leaning to my own understanding, and then I ended up in a place that it messed with me so bad psychologically that it was either I was going to either cop a charge or
She said she's going to catch a case.
it was. I was either, because I was thinking about that. That's what was in my mind, because this brother had to
She was thinking that
Statute of
grits.
limitations.
She was boiling that grits.
Right, exactly.
So, you know, you're thinking you giving all, and then this what you get. And then I'm saying, wait a minute. And then the enemy started talking to me. He did. He started, well, get rid of him. I was like, no.
Right.
No, that's been a long time ago. So it's all right. We all
Right, sure.
we good. So, okay, so anyway, we ended up, I had to make a decision when I started thinking thoughts like that, you know, either walk away or stay. Either I'm going to end up doing something, because you don't know what you may do under pressure, remove yourself. And I had to remove myself from that so that I could raise my children. And I made the decision that I'd rather I'd be a single mom and raise them, and then they have to see all of that dysfunction going on.
Sure.
And that's the decision.
Yeah, that's good. And I think as Ms. Coleman kind of alluded to, you know, you can hear it's a kind of reoccurring theme as relates to as you leaning to your own understanding. I think a lot of times, and it's not just with marriage, it's with a lot of different areas of life, when we kind of get to a point to where we're hasty, kind of get to a point to where we want something before God is ready to release it to us, or we want somebody that God does not necessarily have for us. We kind of can get ourselves in a situation to where, how in the world did I get here? How in the world did I get this situation, how to get this bad this quickly. So I think it's just more of an encouragement than anything. And God will take our life experiences and things that we've gone through and things that we've encountered, and he will allow what it is that we say and we go through, and let it be a warning to persons that's watching, and also be encouragement to somebody that's watching, to let you know, just slow down a little bit. And that's one thing I find myself telling engaged couples a lot. Just slow down, slow down. If that is the person for you, they're not going anywhere. If God told you, that's the key, as I've heard both of you say. Did God tell you that, or is that you telling you that? Is that if God telling you that, or is that your teddy bear telling you that? Is God telling you that, or is that the fact that you tired of being a third wheel and you don't want no more bridesmaid dresses and all this other kind of stuff? And so I think it's so important for you to hear the voice of God, of course, for him to be able to give you that release, that is the individual for you. But then at the same time, even at that, what is the rush? What's the rush? If this is the person that God has for me, that person is going to be there. This individual is not going anywhere. And so I need to just be able to slow down and allow things to kind of happen, and not make it happen. Because whenever it is that you get ahead of God, whenever it is that we get ahead of God, we always make things a lot worse than what they have to be.
And this is for either one of y'all to pick up. You said it, but I can see y'all kind of agreed on it. What else did you guys learn besides love that is going to take for a marriage to work?
Oh, it takes a lot of patience because the honeymoon wears off.
No.
And and after the honeybees and the music that plays constantly in the background stops, and real life sets in. It's like, ooh, I gotta look at you every day.
Right.
After that phase, I think it takes patience. Now, if the love is strong and the love is there, of course, we know love conquers all, but it still takes work.
Right.
It takes work on both parts. Both spouses have to work, and it's a give and take. So I think one thing is being patient and being selfless, because you cannot be selfish in a marriage. It cannot be about you. But if your outlook is, my job is to care about what he wants and what he needs, and his job is to care about what I want and what I need, and if we're both doing our job, we're gonna both be happy.
Right.
And in the past, I didn't always have that. I guess the basic things we learned, like I said, I learned growing up with my mom and my dad. I learned how to, my dad went to work. My mom was the homemaker. She worked only if she wanted to, if she got bored, because other than that, she didn't have to.
Right.
And when he came home from work, I watched her go in the kitchen and cook that meal, and I watched her fix his plate when he come in, and he didn't eat off paper plates. We could eat off plastic plates, but he wasn't gonna do it.
Right.
So I picked up those things, and I still, even now today, like when I serve my dad does not, he's gonna have some china, he's gonna have a plate,
Right.
So those little things like that, I think those seeds were planted, and I learned, how to do that stuff. But then when you bring a whole nother human into the equation, and a whole nother human that they got the way they was raised, and they got what they were taught, and they got how they were brought up, and it doesn't necessarily all the time gel together, then that's when the navigating of the power of wills, and somebody has to yield, and
Right.
That's when the work comes in, and it doesn't always go like it's supposed to, but that's the blueprint I believe God has for us.
Sure.
What about you, Ms. Coleman?
I agree with what my sisters just said. I'm at what I've learned about being married and just relationships, period, is that you can't be selfish. And I've never been selfish in relationships. I always wanted to give. So now that when I said earlier that I wasn't sure if I wanted to be married again, because I'm selfish now.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
You know what? I'm selfish, and even with
You have to have a balance.
yeah, and there's, I have an expectation that one day I may, that I have an expectation now where I didn't. If he said he loved me and I loved him, then, and not all of the other stuff that you need to know about somebody. You need to go find out about if there's cray-cray on their family,
Right.
what else is going
exactly.
on
Yes,
behind the
ma'am.
sීns.
Right.
You need to know so many other things now. It's not just about Google eyes and all of that
Right.
stuff. And so, when I look back, and I was like, all of the signs be there anyways. It's just, where's your expectation? Is he, we'll go to God and God will say, wait. Or show us,
Right.
and we'll still want to try to fit that square peg in that round hole.
Right.
And so what happens is we go in with this. Well, he's going to be everything that he's going to be everything that. And so now I'm like, wait a minute. You know what? I ask God this now. Is this your best for me? Because he may not be, he's the best for somebody, but he
Right.
may not be the best for me.
Right. Right. That's
He's
good.
the best for somebody. So
Right.
I don't want to mess him up. So for the best one that's coming for him.
Right,
Because
sure.
she may not be your best.
Right.
And he may not be my best. And when
Right.
God, and I was on the train and I asked God, I said, God, I met a gentleman. I said, God, is this your best for me? He said, no. And I heard it just like that.
Wow.
I ain't calling no more.
Right.
No more
right.
nothing.
Right. Let him go. He's still on the
Yeah,
train
he's
right now,
still
looking for you.
cut it off.
Yeah.
And even when you fast and pray, I fasted and prayed, God, what is you saying about this man? And
Right.
the Lord said, walk away and don't look back.
Right.
And I said, okay, just like that.
Wow.
And so now I'm learning to ask the questions.
Right.
Ask the hard questions. Why, find out what, do they have any alcoholics in their families or
Right, right.
anybody dabbing in stuff that, because so it's so many other things that I ask now where I
good.
didn't ask.
That's
I
good.
just took it at face value that
Yeah.
they were true because I was true.
Right.
So now I'm learning to ask questions, ask the right questions, and when I'm asked, well, what are you saying? I'll wait till So that's where I'm at now. I don't know because I'm selfish. I think. I told my children that. I say, I'm selfish. I like my space.
Right.
I like my time. I ain't got to cook for nobody. I don't cook unless I want to,
Right.
And those things you can't be selfish about. You can't
Right.
be selfish about taking care of that person who's supposed to be with you,
Right.
And all the times that I did do that and it wasn't appreciated, now I'm like, hey, he gonna have to cook.
Right. No, that's right. Right. Sure. That's good. And I love that. That's so powerful. And I think a lot of times when we talk about relationships, I think a lot of times persons kind of take it personal. And I love the way that you said it. And I'm still in that right now. I'm giving you credit now, and I'm never going to give you credit again. But I love that where is this God's best for me? And so it's not so much, as I say, people kind of take things a little personal. It's not so much that this person is a bad person. It's not that they're not going to make somebody a wonderful wife one day. They're going to make somebody a wonderful husband one day. But is this who God has for me? And I think a lot of times we just got to be honest with ourselves. And as you said, just kind of asking the right questions. And so I think that's really good. So it's not a knock to anybody saying, you're not the one for me. You're the one for somebody. If God got it in the cards for you, so to speak, for you to be married, you're going to be top shelf, top notch for somebody, but not necessarily just for me. So I got to ask those right questions, being honest with myself, saying, am I doing this? Is it what God wants for me? Or am I just trying to push this thing along?
I want to ask you something about what they were saying. What role, and we kind of spoke to this on the previous podcast, when you find out that there's crazy people or crazy, they have family members that might have some kind of past, but that's going to come with everybody, right? So how much weight do you put on that when you meet somebody who mama crazy, daddy crazy, or whatever is in their background?
Right. I think you need to be prayerful about it, and depends on it. And again, I think there's some non-negotiables that comes up. I mean, of course, everybody got Uncle Willie, and everybody got a Big Mama, and everybody got those types of things. But I would really closely pay attention to their family interactions. The way they're interacting with their family, the way they're interacting with their parents, the way they interact with their siblings, and of course, if there is some residue in places. Just say, for instance, if someone in the family is an alcoholic, and now this may be a topic of conversation, very gingerly. God, give me wisdom on how to navigate with this. Hey, sweetheart, have you ever? I know I never seen you drink before, but have you ever struggled? With is that your thing? You're not a drinker, and just kind of ask those questions. I believe, as both of them said, God kind of show you, that was you. God kind of show you some things, and I think we kind of now need to be a little private investigator and start asking some pointed questions. Maybe their parents are, maybe Papa is a Rolling Stone. And you trying to figure out, well, how many relationships have you been in? I mean, asking some real pointed questions around that area. There's some, as you said, there's some baggage that comes along with anybody that you've been in a relationship. We're not going to be able to find a perfect person, a perfect family. You're not going to be able to find that. But at the same time, I do think there's some things that really should raise the red flag and really should cause us to be really cautious and prayerful. And then when I see those things, because this could be a potential problem a little bit later, I'm going to start asking some questions.
So with what you just said, Pastor, when you do, because we've talked about that in Salt Ministry as well. Sangles.
Right.
That we are supposed to talk about and discuss one another's past.
Right.
So that things don't come up later. But when you do that and you discuss each other's past, and you do find out, like you said, it's some Uncle Willies that's cray-cray, or they, had a history of this, a history of that. What if that person is no longer in that season of their life? Do you hold that pastor against them?
Right.
Or, do you say, okay, well, Lord, is this a sign that I'm supposed to go the other direction? Or, because I think we as Christians, we would be superficial to think someone can't change.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But at the same time, God shows us things for a reason.
Right,
so
sure.
what do you do with that?
I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all answer, but I do believe that we ought to be intentional when it comes to, as Sister Coleman alluded to, when it comes to prayer, when it comes to fasting, when it comes to seeking God's face, and that is a powerful point. You can't hold a person hostage to their past, especially can't hold a person hostage based on their family's history, their family's past. But at the same time, as you said, if God reveals something or God shows something, God lets something come to surface, I would keep drilling down in that area, especially if I feel a little uneasy. And I think a lot of times people burst past that uneasy. They'll burst past those barriers that God put in place and not do the due diligence to see, God, is this something that you put into place to kind of stop me or to slow it down? And so I would slow down. Again, I'll slow down and say, God, what is it about this? And until he gives you a release. And I just believe, just as clearly as Sister Coleman said earlier, God said, leave and don't look back. And I believe that God will give you that type of surety. I believe he'll give you that type of sure word, let you know. I still remember when me and Lady Steve got together. I was like, man, look here, you the one for me. I know God told me. And she said she was sitting behind. I was working at CVS. It was Eckert's back in the day. I was overnight because I was stripping the floors. And this is how I knew she was for me. I wasn't stripping the floor. I was watching the people stripping the floor. I was supposed to be inside watching them, but I was outside caking up in the Nissan. We was back there talking and stuff. So, but anyway, the point is, I knew this one for me when she brought me some corn nuggets from Bono's. I said, this one right here. This girl, she heard me talking about some corn nuggets, and she brought me some corn nuggets. But anyway, the little fried corn nugget with a little sauce and all. Y'all don't know about that. Anyway, but anyway, I remember she said to me, she said, God gave me James 4:7. And I was like, God gave you James 4:7. James 4:7 says, submit to God, resist the devil, and he'll flee. Is that supposed to be for me? What do you mean God gave you James 4:7? But and so that was the thing we was kind of hung up on for a little while, because she's like, I don't know about this James 4:7. And then I remember I brought that instance up because, as I said, I was at the store, I was monitoring the store, was in the back of the store eating corn nuggets, and she said, God said it's it. God said it's it. And so I remember that moment. I remember that time. And so my point in saying all of that is, I'm not saying that Gabriel and Michael and everybody got to come down and you got to hear the voice of the Lord, thy God, that is your husband, this is your wife. But I believe God will if we're amen, if we're children of God. If we have been conditioned all of our Christian life to listen to his voice, to take heed for his voice, I'm sure that he will give us that type of release, because marriage, again, is the second biggest decision I could ever make in my life. Making Jesus Christ the Lord and my personal Savior, and who I decide to marry, that's very, very important. So I can't haphazardly enter into that.
Y'all spoke to selfishness. What is it about compromise? Was compromise an issue that you came up, whether it was you or the other party? Ms. Jewell, you take it.
For me, I don't really have an issue with compromising, because I feel like that's what marriage is about. But I do think, like Sister Coleman just said, you do have to have a balance of, yeah, we're supposed to be selfless, but I think if you're married to the wrong person and your mentality is I'm selfless, your mentality is I compromise, your mentality is I'm supposed to submit, so I follow, and that other person isn't on the same page, you're going to follow them off of a cliff.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened to me. So now, where I am, how I approach marriage, I would still be selfless. I would still compromise. I would still submit and do those things. But now it's a safeguard in place to say in the dating stage, certain things I'm looking for. I'm not following anybody else off of a cliff. I'm not dying, in the relationship while you live. I'm not doing those things. So. Yeah, I guess for me it was I don't have a problem with compromise, but it's give and take. It's a two-way street. I'm gonna be your ride or die. You got to be my ride or die, but I can't be riding down by myself.
Right. I'm doing
all
all the riding and the
right?
dying. You just gonna be riding.
Right. We're not doing that. So yeah, that's how my take on it.
What about you, Ms. Coleman? Was compromise something was it a problem you ran into, or?
I didn't have a problem compromising. I was always the one that was trying to make it work. If even when it wasn't even my doing, he would get into situations that I would have to try to get him out. And so anytime things were not together, I was the one that, and for the most part, it was like, and I had to. Me and my kids be talking about this in relationship. I've always had to be the I don't want to say the strong one, the one that carried the relationship.
Wow.
And a lot of women have to carry a relationship because most times the people that they're with, they're not supposed to be with them anyway.
Wow.
So they don't know how to. That he don't know how to carry her.
Wow.
So he didn't know what to do with me. And most of the time, they don't know what to do. The man, he's supposed to know what to do with me.
Right.
He's supposed to.
Right. That's good.
but because he didn't.
That's why we invited the ladies. Come on, talk to us.
So if
he's supposed to know
he's
what to do.
supposed to know.
Come on, talk. Don't move too fast. Hit that. No, I like that. He's supposed to know.
He's supposed to know.
And when he don't know.
He don't know. He didn't know what to do with me. And so I had to carry that burden to make sure things got done. And so then eventually you burn out.
Right.
Somebody gonna burn out. Somebody's just gonna. There's no more. I don't have anything else.
That's so good.
And so now we crash and burn.
Right.
So now, okay. So now we ain't going there no more. We if he can't meet me where I'm at, I don't have to have my standards way up here.
Right.
But he needs to be able to meet me where I'm at.
That's so good.
He needs to be able to go that extra for me. Like I go extra for you. You need to be able to go extra for me.
Right.
Make if it makes you uncomfortable. If this preacher I was dating and I said what he was always busy with ministry, busy, and he wanted to. I came to town, and he wanted to take me out to, but after 9 o'clock. I'm like, whoa, no,
Right.
no, not after 9.
Right. No, ma'am.
You know, after I got this men's meeting, and then I got this here, but after 9 o'clock, I said, you know what? I said, if I come and my time is valuable. I know your time is valuable,
Sure.
but my time is valuable. So if I just want 5 minutes of your time, you need to make time for me. Give me
Right.
5 minutes. That's
Yes,
all
ma'am.
I'm asking for.
Right.
But you can't fit me into your schedule.
Right.
And this is the way it is now.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. That's-
So it's not going to get any better.
Right.
So that's where talking and finding out, asking the questions, so that yeah, you know what? No, I see we not on the same page.
Right,
We're
right.
not on the same page. So if I'm down and you got a meeting, your meeting gonna come before me.
Right,
And I
right.
know everything won't be about me.
Sure.
But you know what? If I'm in the you want cool points with me.
Right,
You
yeah.
wanna win
Yeah,
me.
you still trying to wow me,
Yeah,
and you
you
can't
trying
even.
to, yeah,
you trying to take me to
you
crystals.
cutting
Yeah.
corners with me?
Right.
No, you won't cut no corners
Right,
with
yes,
me.
ma'am.
So now I cut it off. As soon
Right.
as we won't even have to go there no more.
Right, right.
You know, you find somebody who you
Sit
can
there,
fit them
damsel
in.
in
Damsel in distress, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. That's good. You like she want to say something else.
I was just gonna piggyback on what she just said. That the man shouldn't know what to do with us.
Yeah.
And you gotta always be the one to carry, but don't be the ones, Pastor, that be like, I'm the man. You supposed to submit, and I wear the pants. And it's like, well, wear 'em.
Right, exactly. Like he got some Daisy Dukes right now.
Right. Well, wear 'em. So yeah. So I thought about when you were saying that.
Very good. Very good.
And we're not. It's not that I don't like. I love men.
Sure.
I love. I go that way.
Right, I got you.
Shout out.
Right, right.
I go out that way now.
Sure.
Because that's the way God made us.
Right.
He made us to desire and to the opposite sex. That's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
I want to be, have butterflies when I'm, 80, if I'm here,
Right.
and running through the house,
Right,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever.
Hallelujah.
What-
Right. Yes, ma'am.
whatever. But yeah. So, but He made us that way. So I never want to lose that kind of passion. I
Right.
never want to lose that. But I want the right person
Sure.
who will know how to
Right.
minister
Right.
to me.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah.
And-
Minister to me
right.
where I'm at, right there.
Exactly, and that's good because life has taught you those things.
Right,
And
right,
so it's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I've been down this road, and both of you have spoken to this where you've carried the relationship. You emotionally drained, you physically drained. Then don't throw kids into the equation to where you're taking care of kids and you're working and you're doing all this stuff, and then now you're having to carry the entire relationship, and then all the gentleman, he's doing what he need to do as a relationship, probably working and doing all that stuff, and then also he wants to be active, other places and things, and you like, man, come on, Busta Rhymes, I mean, come on, sir. I mean, so that's a very good perspective, and I think that if a lot of individuals will see those red flags, rewind, if a lot of individuals will take heed to those red flags, because we're seeing those red flags, but you have to it has to become a place, a state in your life where nonsense. I'm not, like you said, I'm not trying to be way up here. I'm definitely not trying to go on the other team. I desire to be with someone, if that's God's will for me, but at the same time, life has taught me, trouble has taught me, all these dead ends that I've been on have taught me that there's certain things I'm just not going to settle for, and that's so good. That's good.
I wanted to ask, do y'all did at any point in the relationship ever think that he was feeling like that? Maybe he's feeling like he's carrying the relationship, he's drained, or none of those times were shown? No, I'm serious. No,
I mean, he might have felt that way,
Okay.
but the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean? I mean, the way God has set up marriage and the way it's designed, we are the weaker vessels. That's not to say that we can't do anything or that we're perfect, but if we already have that innate desire to please the man because God put that on us, your desire is going to be for your husband.
Mm-hmm.
It's in us. You know what I mean? We don't have a choice. It's there. But if he's not living up to that love my wife like Christ loved the church and gave his life for her, if he's not giving his life for her, he can feel whatever you want to feel. It's like, what are you doing? What are you showing? What are you presenting? And in my case, a lot of times I covered. Because we were in ministry, I covered. I often covered when I probably shouldn't have covered. And a lot of time I took hits to my ego sitting right on the front row, praise the Lord, hallelujah, and just dropped my head from the pulpit. Well, a woman should have dinner ready when a man get home. I know that. Like I said, I grew up like that. But we also got to have food in the house. What about that part? You know what I mean? Hallelujah.
I don't mind frying the bacon, but you got to bring it home.
Right, yeah. Well, when you got no ice in the freezer, come on, man.
Right.
You know? So, but I would never say anything. I would never expose that. I would never put that out there. I would just nod my head, say, man, go home and cry in the corner. You know? So he could have felt like he was carrying it, but, I mean, the proof was in the pudding, so to speak. So, and it's not to say that I was perfect in a relationship, because we all have faults.
Sure.
But I conditioned myself, especially this last time, I conditioned myself and I stayed where I shouldn't have because I didn't want another failed relationship. I didn't want another marriage. I didn't want another badge to go, you know, to add to the collection of, you know, and then it makes you feel like when you've been married multiple times, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep getting this wrong? You know, I'm loving hard. I'm giving all. I'm giving that 150%. What am I doing wrong? You know, so I carried a lot of that emotional weight, even though I was doing everything I knew to do as a wife to stay in the marriage.
Right. Real quick, stay right there for a second, because I think a lot of times, I was sharing with Angelo, I think a lot of times in the body of Christ, and I'll just say just in general, I'm not going to say the body of Christ, in general, persons who have been married multiple times, they almost do wear it as a badge of honor, or almost do wear it as relates to like what's the word, or how I want to say it, almost to make so you won't feel, or so they won't be betrayed, or they won't you won't get the sense that this is something wrong with this individual. Is always kind of a flaunting. It's always you know, I keep saying the word always. It's not in every case, but what I've seen, persons who are on the other side of divorce, especially multiple times, they try to always like, well, I'm just out. I ain't putting up with this, and I ain't doing that. Talk about the pain and the shame and all those types of things that you had to do, especially as you may mention in ministry. I mean, as relates to you stuck in there, you didn't want to fail marriage, you stuck in there, you hung in there. What type of, how does that put me? I want to put myself in your shoes. That feeling of that, all of that comes along with divorce, and then it's a multiple time.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel good at all. And even now, I mean, I've grown to the point of, it's my past. You know, I don't take stuff away from my past, because God used all of that stuff to make me who I am today. So if I start erasing stuff, or if I can go back and change this, if I start doing that, I may not be the woman that, you know, I sit here today.
Right.
So I'm learning to embrace it. It's not something I'm proud of. It's not something that, you know, I even talk about a lot.
I got you.
So I'm not one of those individuals to be, you know, just throwing a towel. I can just get another one. You know?
Right.
Beyonce to the left. I can get another. I don't want another one like you. No. You know. Right. So for me, it was I put in that extra work because I didn't want it to be said again that, like, just to be looked at like it's got to be something wrong with her. She can't keep nobody, you know. And then the enemy used that. The enemy used my ex to actually tell me that, like, you know, you're not gonna get nobody else, and you didn't have this person and that person, and don't nobody else want you, but still you was still trying. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, but the enemy will use those things to play on your mind to make you feel like you're not worthy. And if you go there, then you'll never have the hope that, okay, maybe I did it 3-4 times and I did it wrong, but God still has that right one for me, you know, because he said we're not supposed to be alone. Man's not meant to be alone. So I'm like, if I can say I did X, Y, and Z and contributed to this, maybe I did move too fast, or maybe I did ignore those roadblocks and full speed ahead, or feel like, but God, he got so much potential, like we can grow through this, you know, because that was a big thing for me. I saw the potential, and I was like, all I saw is where we could go together. Right. But the unfortunate thing of that is sometimes you meet opportunists that you're saying, we can grow through this, we can build this empire together, and they have a whole different
You just
you
said
know,
something. You just said something.
agenda.
You just said something. Hold on. You just said something. You just said something. So a person can have potential out the door, but if they're not an opportunist, that potential is just all that it is. It's just. But go ahead. And as I heard you sideline preaching, said you gotta have vision. Go ahead.
You can see the potential in a person all day long, but if they don't see it for themselves, or they just see how you can get them, then again, it's not give and take. It's I'm giving, and you just taking, and then I look up one day and it's like I'm empty, I'm drained, I have nothing left to give other than me. And it's like, okay, if you give that away, you gone. Your children don't have nobody here to raise them.
Right.
So for me, it was not a badge of honor. It was not something that I fought to keep that towel. Even after all the stuff, all the reasons I had to walk away from the relationship, and I let fear and then the thought of failure keep me in it. Once he left, because I was praying, and, but it was like, I'm going to be the godly wife. I'm going to stay. I'm going to pray through this. We're going to be all right. But once he left the home, it's like, God, that's my way of escape. Right. And then that's when I filed for divorce, and it went from there. But I wouldn't have, if I had my way or my desire, I never would have let it get to that point. It's just I couldn't stop it. I didn't have control of it because we only have control over ourselves. We can't control the other individual. You know what I mean? Right. So it takes two. Right. One can't fix it. If it takes two to get married, one can't carry it. One can't fix it, no matter how hard they try.
That's good.
Ms. Coleman, what's some of the things? I know prayers first and looking for God's guidance, but what's some of the things you would look for in the next man to know that he can handle you, like you said?
My family say that too. Somebody know how to handle you.
Right. But I mean, you know what I mean? What's some of those signs where you say he can handle me?
Right.
Well, you know what? I if you want to get me, bring the word to me. You can get me with the word.
That's good.
If you want to get me to to get me to whoosh, to shut my mouth, get me with the word, because the word will shut me up. I can't argue with God,
right.
So, but you got to be coming at me straight. You can't don't come, trying to use the word in manipulation to get me to do, but speak to me as God is speaking to you to speak to me. And then when you come to me the right way, I'm going to know by the Spirit, because the Spirit knows Spirit. And so, and even as I've dated and I listen, and if you listen, you're going to hear everything you need to, if you just listen.
Right.
Don't hear what they're saying, hear what they're not saying. Because they're saying something when they're talking, so you hear what they're not saying. But he would just need to be not just a godly man. I want him to be godly, and that should be the top of the line.
Sure.
And even when I minister to women, as a matter of fact, one woman she called and she was like, well, if God say we're supposed to be abstinent until we get married, how we know we're going to be sexually compatible? I said, well, you need to, there should be so many other things before that. That should be on the top of the thing.
Right.
But if you go to that first,
amen.
That should be the top.
She lost an amen over there, so I had to back up over here.
That should be the top. It should be. There should be so many other things you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, things that you grab about that person, because once you go to the physical first, what you gonna talk about after it's over?
Right.
You got to talk afterwards.
Can't stay in there all day. You got 23 hours and 58 more minutes.
You still got to talk. So you want to be able to know them on all the levels, and then. Like what's the girl name on Color Purpose? I was married now. Mm-hmm. There's books to read. There's other things you can work out to get there.
Right.
But just make sure you get the important things that you got emotion. Because once you go into the physical part of it, it changes the whole dynamic of the relationship.
Right.
And now somebody's gonna get more attached than the other, and then before you know it, it's one side, and then whether he or she, because some women do the same thing. Once that's over, they gone. You know, so you done gave them all of the goodies first, and so
right.
now they, you know, they don't. It's nothing. Surprise, no more surprises. You know?
Right. Exactly.
So
Yes,
you wanna be able to,
There's no more shyness.
you know.
right, exactly.
So I'm saying that, and I laugh now, but
Right.
I've been to these places.
Sure.
And so now when I talk to women, I wait a minute, find out what's up there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's he thinking? How does he handle stress? You know,
Right.
how does he, if you don't know anything about him other than physical, you're gonna be in for a rude awakening.
Amen. That's
And
right.
so now I go into it a whole different way now. I'm looking at it now. It's not about, I don't care what, you know what? If you don't know how to lead me into prayer or lead me into worship, you're not a worshiper. I heard Pastor say, you can't lead me anywhere because you don't have a vision.
Right.
And if you don't have a vision, where are you going to lead me?
Right. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes,
Right
ma'am.
off
That's right. Exactly.
Right off the cliff.
And this for both of y'all. You spoke to a woman calling you and getting advice. Is counseling something that you guys think, as you entered your first marriage, it was underestimated? You guys did it, and you just didn't find out what you thought you would, or you guys skipped it thinking that we would make it without it, or how do y'all feel about that as far as your first marriage? You could go first, Ms. Jewell.
Well, counseling is very important, very needed. It is important. It is needed. I wouldn't go into a marriage without it, and I've had it. You know what I mean? But and then people call me. I counsel people, because I've been through so much. So I definitely am pro counseling. In regards to getting married. In my case, as far as what the counseling did, number one, you got to have the right counselor. Okay. So
Somebody say Jesus is wonderful counselor. He's a counselor. But I got amen.
You have to have the right counselor, and in our case, unfortunately, we did go through the church to get counseling, but just where the place we were at, it was not sound counsel. So it really didn't help us much at all. It more or less, when the rubber started to hit the road, so to speak, the wrongs were overlooked, or they were brushed under the rug. So there was no rebuke there. You know what I mean? So that was wrong even going into it, so to speak. So I think number one, you got to have somebody that you trust to counsel you. I do think we need a balance. I think we need a good pastor, a word preaching pastor, to sit down and counsel. And I also think it's fair to even say we need, somebody outside the church that is certified counsel,
Sure.
because you need balance.
Amen.
Especially us as Black people, I don't know why we frown on counseling. If you go to counseling or you go to a psychiatrist, you go to talk to somebody, something's wrong with you.
Right.
And then, people that aren't in the church, hey, you going in there and you listening to that man, that preacher man, but you know what I'm saying? But we need that too. We need
Right.
somebody that's grounded in the word. So in that case, counseling is definitely needed before any type of marriage, because again, you got two humans with their own ways of doing things coming together, and it's just, I think that's the place we learn to be selfless, and we learn to compromise, and we learn, okay, this is how you stay together. So because, dating and life has changed so much, it's like chivalry is dead, and everybody, like you said, want it so quick. They want the microwave marriage, and then if it don't work out, I'll just get another one.
Right.
Like they do in Hollywood.
Right.
They on the cover this week with this one, next week it's like, well, wait a minute.
Right.
So I think if we go into it with that mentality, it's never gonna work. It's never gonna work, because it's what you learn in that counseling and what you learn in those dating phases that's gonna keep you together. But sometimes people don't hold on to that. They get to the altar and it's just like everything that got us here go out the window.
Right.
Like like what grandma used to say, what you did to get me,
Right.
you gotta do to keep me, and vice versa. So counseling definitely is needed.
Yes, I agree with that. Counseling is, I didn't have counseling because I had already made a mess. So then we trying to fix the mess.
Right.
So then so we were trying to fix it.
Right, yes,
So,
ma'am.
so then they had to, they told me to stay. And I stayed. I stayed because of the children. I stayed. But, and I thank God for my pastor during that time. Back then they told everybody to
Right,
stay.
sure.
Everybody said, I don't
Sure.
care what he do.
Right.
I don't care what happened. You stay.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, he wasn't physically, he was mentally and verbally abusive. But I think a lot of times when we're not open to the counseling and we miss, the pastor can say the truth is blaring truth. And we'll hear the truth, but we're still already made up our mind. And they do. We do that. We don't want to hear that because that's not what we want.
Exactly.
We want this here. We want this. And it doesn't matter what the counseling says. They can point it out to you. You look at, well, we love each other. But the pastor says, your counselor says, well, you know what? I think you should, just give it a break. Just hold off a bit.
Right.
Well, we don't want to hold it. We don't want to hold on.
No,
we already made up our mind.
Right, exactly. I already got my dress, on the way. Right, exactly. Yeah, I got my place.
Telling me to wait.
Right.
I don't wait.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
yeah. We don't pay. They already done got the wedding. All they
Right.
just want you to go through this here.
Yep,
And then that's it.
Yeah.
So yeah. If I were to do it again, I would definitely go through counseling. And seek God, just because you need to be prayerful anyways. You need to be, before you go to counseling, before you even want to even think about before you start getting emotionally, because sometimes when you hang around people, you hang around a man or woman, because that's the way men and women are. You hang around, somebody that you may be interested in, and then you're spending company. You're going out to dinner, and you going to the park, and you're going da-da-da-da. And then before you know it, you're getting all, oh, he didn't text me, texting and talking and all. Yeah, you invest in time.
Yeah.
So now you're getting reeled in.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
And before you realize it, bam, you got your feelings involved. So I advise it. I would do it, and I advise it. But the people have to be open and willing to receive what's being said.
And it can't be just a one-hit wonder. It has to be a series of sessions. Because you can't
Not
get
just one
everything in
session.
just one session. Yeah.
You're talking finances. You're talking.
Yeah.
You got child support. You got. You got other babies from somewhere.
Right, exactly.
You
Yes,
need to
ma'am.
know all of that
That's all
stuff.
right.
You need to know. You need to know all of that. You need to know as much as you can, because you're not gonna know everything until once you live and you find out things. But living with them, but before marriage, a lot of this could be eliminated if we listen. And the red flags.
Right,
The red
exactly.
flags. So,
Exactly.
And I just want to say, I thank God for you, Pastor, not being the pastor that just says, stay with them.
Right.
We hear that from the pulpit all the time. Now, if he knocking, you cross your head.
Right.
Because that is old school, and a lot of pastors still today will say, but he got killed, but you stay with him. No, that's not.
Right, exactly.
So I thank God, and I think with the counseling thing, and I know it would probably be hard for pastors, not just you, Pastor Kobe and Lady C, to do this, but I think when couples are going through the marital counseling, and they just, like you said, they're trying to get to the altar. So if pastor says 3 sessions, come on, let's knock out these 3 sessions.
Right.
So it's like right. You ain't really taking notes. You just okay, we got an hour, okay.
Right.
And so it's not even. It's like you cramming for a test.
Right.
You ain't you knew the answers. You
Right.
passed the test, but
Right.
you ask you that next week. You ain't gonna even know what you drew in the bubble.
Right.
But I think maybe it should continue. Like some sessions should continue after marriage. Well, okay, now y'all done went and honeymooned and God bless you, you're back. Okay, we need to see y'all again.
Right.
You know what
Sure.
I mean?
Sure.
And, or you know, if you're, unless you're in a ministry like us where you have marriage ministry, okay, we need to get you plugged in. Like a lot of couples, that's the end of it.
Right. Yeah.
And then you don't see them again until the problems start.
Right.
You know, the dog bit the cat and the vacuum broke and she gave me food poison and she
Right.
don't cook like my mama.
Right.
You know,
Right. All that. Right.
then y'all want to come sit in front of the pastor and fix us. You know,
Right.
that's not how it works.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, it needs to be a continual thing.
Yep. I agree. I definitely agree.
In wrapping up, and this is for both of y'all, I'll start with you, Mr. Jewell. If your son or daughter, and if you've already done this, then what did you say? But when they come to you and say, Mom, I'm ready to get married, what advice do you give your son, and then what advice do you give your daughter?
Ooh. When my oldest son got married, I said, I have 3 sons, and my oldest, I think he got married 7 years ago, but when he came and told me he met a girl and da-da-da, I said, okay, when he brought her to me, I said, you know, I told her and him, I said, I never cared if my sons got married, because I didn't want to share my sons with anybody.
Right.
I said, I told Art, she's a sweet lady, sweet girl. They have 2 boys, and she's a sweetheart. But I told them, I never cared if he got married. I never cared if they got married, because I never cared in high school if they dated. These were my boys. So I'm real close to my boys too. So, but they're not mama's boys
Right,
either,
gotcha,
though. They're
sure.
not mama's boys.
Right.
But he says, and I told her, he said, well, I said, you can't be my baby anymore. And he said, Mom, I'll always be your baby. I said, no, you're Audrey's baby now.
Right.
You know, you can't, I can't. And he would call me sometimes when they first got married. And I would tell him, you can't, don't talk about her cooking that's not like mine.
Right.
You know, don't, you know, they went through counseling with her father's a pastor and stuff, but, and they had some work things to do, but what I said to him was, because you blending two families now, you blend two people, 2 personalities.
Sure.
I said, now what happens is when you rise above where she's at, then the things that you think are bothering you are not going to bother you anymore.
Oh,
but
that's
you
good.
gotta
That's
come
good.
up.
That's
You gotta
good.
come up to love her to where she need to be.
Right. That's good.
And so he said, you know what? And I know God gave me that. I
Yeah, that's
ain't
good.
that smart. I ain't that
Right.
smart.
I got you.
So,
That's good. Yeah. Sure.
so you gotta get to a place where all those things that irritate she does, when you get to your place,
Right,
then the
sure.
things that she do is not going to bother you as
That's
much.
good.
You're going to love her right on where she needs to be. And that's where and I call him now, I'll say, so are you still in love? He said, yeah.
Right.
You know, so
That's
stay
good.
in love.
Right.
Don't love her because she's your wife.
Right.
Stay in love with her, because
That's
when
good.
you're in love, and I'm telling my baby boy that too. I said the baby boy has a little 6-year-old daughter, and I said to him, you know, about the mom, I said, you're not in love with her. He said, I do, Mom, I am in love with her. I said, no, you love her because she's the mother of your child, but you're not in love with her, because if you were in love with her, you'll be able to love her past all of the stuff that
Right,
she's
exactly.
dealing with. You impatient with her, you're short with her, you're not encouraging her, you're not building her up, you're
Right.
angry with her, you're you know, speaking negative to her. You can't
Right.
do that, and
Right.
you can't do it in front of the little girl. But he thought about it. He said, you know what? No, I'm not in love with her. I do love her because she's the mother of my child, but I'm not in love with her.
Right.
So I try to give them, and then point them to
Right.
point it to a man, because I raise my boys, but I can't raise men.
Right, but
you
even
know,
even in
you know.
that, most parents don't shoot the truth to their children that way. Most some parents, I say some parents don't. They'll well, you don't got to take that and all this. But I love that you know put the ball in their court and say, hey, you got something to do with this. So that's really good, really good.
Ooh. First of all, I've been praying for spouses for my kids since they were babies. And I started praying for godly spouses for them when they were babies. And though, you know, I have 2 grown kids and neither one of them are married yet. And it seems like the third one is probably going to be first in line. I don't know, Pastor. I'm just like, Jesus, I ain't ready.
Don't make me drop his name. I'll drop his name right there. I ain't going to drop his name, but go right ahead.
But the conversation has come up, and you know, and when it came up, I asked one of the questions I asked was, well, you know, in a few years, you know, through the few years, you know, is that something you can see for yourself, or do you feel like you're young, you need to live a little and date, you know, and meet people? And the response was, no, I could definitely see that for myself. And I was like, wow, because I actually, in that case, can see that for her. So what advice I would give them, I would, for one, say, don't marry anybody just because you like them. You marry them because you can't live without them. Because when they get on your nerves and you do want to kill them and you do want to bake that pie.
And it will come. Right.
You do want to boil that grits. You're going to have to hold on to why you with them in the first place. Right. The second advice I would give them is don't follow in mama's shoes. You know, and not that, again, if you know, could have done it differently, I would have. But now that I'm older and wiser and looking back and I recognize some things spiritually as well as just emotionally and mentally that could have been different, you know, now I can teach them. I can teach them that, listen, you getting married, you need to understand there's a spirit of divorce that been plagued our family for the last few decades.
Right.
What you gonna do? Are you gonna break the cycle?
Right.
Or are you gonna come a statistic?
Right.
You know what I mean? So those are the kind of things I would say to them, and what I would say, especially to my son, Jesus, but even to my daughters, unless he is hurting you physically, I don't want to know about it.
Right.
Don't tell me. Don't run home and tell mama, because I'm going to still be mad, and y'all done made up.
Right.
And now you mad because I don't like her. You know what I mean? So unless they are physically putting your life in danger, I don't want to know about it. Fix y'all problem, work it out, pray. Let's pray on it. I help you pray, but I don't want to know, because once you patch things up, I don't want you now resenting me because my yeah, like you don't like. Well, you the one said.
Right.
I mean, I know
She
you
ain't
grown,
never like
but
your
you
cooking.
still my baby.
Right.
So I
Right.
ain't gonna never like her now after
Right.
that. So I would say I don't want to be in the middle.
Right.
You know, and some parents, I think, make the mistake of, well, they your baby, but once they become somebody else's baby, like you said,
Right.
you know, you gotta back up. You can't call your son every morning saying wake up and go to work. No, he got a wife and an alarm clock for that.
Right.
See, I'm sorry, I reverted back.
Like
I digress.
I got you.
I digress. I'm back. But yeah, so I would just say, you know, tell them to pray, to seek God, to be sure to get the counseling.
Sure.
You know, and both, and like you said, it is a meeting of the family, and that's why I'm so comfortable just with that idea in a few years, because our families have intertwined and bonded. So now it's a village.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's important. So many times when young couples get married, the parents either they haven't met. They meet at the wedding. Like, what is that?
Right, sure.
You know, or we haven't had any time to bond, you know, with the families, or one feel like this one too good, or, you know, that one ain't good enough. And then it's a rift between the families, which puts pressure on the couple.
Right.
And they got to stay, you know, they're not starting out with well wishes. They starting out with, well, my mama don't like your mama. And no, I ain't going over there. No, I don't want none of that meatloaf, you know.
Right, sure.
You know, y'all going to be broke from the start.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's very important to blend the families, to do it right, and to make the journey, you know, to a blessing and not a curse.
Right. Very good. I'm gonna defer my my time, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of minister to that young lady. Two people I got on my mind, 2 individuals, 2 circumstances, I should say. That person that is in a marriage right now, and it's a bad marriage, it's a rough marriage, things aren't working out, and they're kind of in that spot where they're looking for God to give them that release. They don't know if this is gonna work. I want each one of you, if you want, or to speak to this, and then also the other young lady that I want you guys to speak to, or the other person situation, is that person that has gone through the divorce. They now they're divorced. You know, the paperwork is final, it's over. What would you say to those individuals? Maybe that individual that is in that bad marriage, in that relationship right now, they don't know what to do, they don't know which way to turn, they don't know which way to go. And then also the other individual that's on the other side of the relationship, on the other side of the marriage, divorce is final. What would you take? And you can take either one or both or whatever you want to do.
Go ahead.
Okay. For the first instance of that person who is in the bad marriage and, you know, seeking God and waiting for that out, I'm not going to give you an out, so to speak, because God can fix anything. But I will say to thy own self, be true. Only you know what you're dealing with. So if you know that this marriage is totally beyond repair, you have looked at everything that you can possibly change. You've looked at everything that you can fix. You take the focus off of the spouse, look at yourself in the mirror and say, how am I contributing to the breakdown of this marriage? If you've done that and there's really nothing else you can do, and you know, we know when, okay, enough is enough. We'll say I'm tired, but we're not tired until we are sick and tired.
Right.
If you have reached that breaking point and it's that toxic of a situation, I would say plan your exodus, you know, but it's not just I'm leaving you and I pack my bag and I run somewhere that's worse. No, you have to be prayerful. You have to seek God, because anybody can turn. Right. You know, things can go left real quick. You have to be prayerful. You have to seek God, especially if there's kids involved, and you have to do all that's within you to make a peaceful exit and not put the kids in the middle of drama. So that's very important. So again, I'm not giving you an out.
Yeah, we're giving no out.
We're not giving you. We're not saying,
yeah,
"Oh, that's my word."
Yeah.
I'm calling the attorney in the morning. No, that's not.
Sit down somewhere and go pray.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you go to God and say, "God, show me me."
Right.
And once God shows you, then you can go back to God and say, "Okay, Lord, do I stay, or is this I need to exit stage left?" Right. God will let you know, and He's gonna let you know because He'll work it out. Like I said, in my case, I didn't even have to do anything. I was at that breaking point. I was at that point of I this can't be God. This can't be what He wants from me. Then He left. Right. So it was like, okay, I didn't even have to do anything, right. You know. So I would say seek God and look at self first, and then be very prayerful about your decision. In the second case, for the person that the divorce is final, the ink is dry, you find yourself single again. I'm on both sides of the coin. I was that first instance, and now I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side of my pain. I'm on the other side of my healing. And now, and I won't lie, Pastor, it's scary. It's scary being the divorced person, and especially as a woman, a divorce-saved woman with children. That
sounds like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. It's hard to be in that place, and because it's scary, because you have been bitten by that shark, and you don't want to go back in the water. You're scared to walk up to that door because you don't know what's on the other side of it. Right. But that's when you have to just pray and say, okay, well, God, if you mean for me to date, to meet someone, to get remarried again, I'm gonna spend this time working on me, and I spent time on getting to know what Jewell like. I've learned so many things about myself in the last 7 years that I was like, I never knew I liked that. I never knew I liked to do that. I never wanted to do that before. Right. So it's like you meet yourself for the first time all over again. And you yes, I love me. Hey. I can remember a time I would never go out and eat by myself. Eat by myself. Oh no, people gonna look at me now. Y'all have to go with me? No, I want to go by myself. Right. So you get to a point where you just start to love you. You start to learn who you are and what you like. And before you know it, you're on the other side of that pain. Healing has come. And then when God does present someone, it's not to say that you won't still be like, hold up. Right. God, is this you? Right. Because if it's not you, close this door, Lord. Right. I'm not going there. Right. But at least you're open to the idea. So life after divorce, you're not dead. You know that you do mourn the loss of the divorce, but don't lose yourself in it.
That's good.
You know what
That's
I
good.
mean? Because
That's good.
it's easy to lose self and feel like, ain't nobody gonna want me. You
Right.
know, I'm back out here single again. I got these kids. Look, all this gray hair.
Right.
But I ain't saying that. I like mine, Pastor.
Right.
But
I got you.
but you know, the devil plays on
The
you
Lord
with those
say something
things.
like that. Lord
Right,
say-
right. the devil play on you. You know,
Right.
he'll use you to be. You know, and I've had those moments. You know, I felt like I was at my fittest back then. I was at my finest. My skin was the prettiest. You know, my shape was what I wanted to be. You know, you go through all that list, and then be like, man, I just, you know, now here I am starting all over. But I had to stop looking at here I am starting over and look at I'm here.
Right, amen.
Because
That's
I
good.
could have been gone in that
Right.
relationship. I could have not made it. I could have
Right.
took myself out like the devil
Right.
wanted me to do. So life after divorce, it's not, your life isn't over. Look at it as, ooh, I got a new life and it's just starting.
Amen. That's good.
and go forth and just be very, very prayerful on who you deal with, who you let in your circle, who you let around your children, and, you know, do the obviously, be safe.
Right.
That's
Amen.
my
Very
advice.
good.
Ms. Coleman?
Life after divorce, I remember when I divorced the children's father, it was like a death almost. It was like, it was a hard thing, even though things were really bad, all the things that we went through, but I was like, I was supposed to be happy, you know, because I wasn't happy. It was like a part of me was dead. And so I had a hard time adjusting. I really had a hard time dealing with the emotional part of it. And what do I do now? What do I? And God opened up a door for me to go back to school. And I started, you know, reinventing me. That was a journey that I began to reinvent me. I went back to school. I got my degree in computers, and I was doing well, bought a house. You know, me and the kids were doing good. And I started, you know, I dated a little bit even after that, but I would say this, for after the papers are signed, give yourself time. Don't just jump back into
Right.
dating again. Give yourself time. If it's a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 years,
Right.
you know, give
Right.
give
Sure.
yourself,
Time.
give, everybody's different.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, give yourself time to, you know, find you in them places where you thought you needed him.
That's good.
You know, find you, and then you'll be able to make sound decisions. When he do come, you'll be able to make a decision that's not emotional.
Right.
You know, you're not in your feelings, because we are so emotional.
Right.
But not acting, you know, don't go in your feelings when you're making decisions, because it's always going to be wrong. It's going to be tainted and stuff. But find you in that place. Find you. I began to do things with my children even the more. You know, we didn't have a lot of money, but we did a lot of stuff. We went to the zoo, went to the beach. We lived near the water, so we were at the beach every day. You know, just things that you could do to build family, build them, give them. I wanted stability. If they're children, give them the stability, give them structure, give them, you know, don't change the only routine. The thing that changed was their dad wasn't in the house. But other than that, I kept the routine, I kept the structure, kept the, and that's what I would say. Give yourself time to heal. Give yourself time to find you.
Right.
Find you before you start going out and getting involved in somebody else who, you know, you haven't had time to, you know, and then I dated another preacher. Ooh, preachers are strip.
Yeah, I see.
preachers are a
something
trip.
I heard.
Anyway, but he and the thing was, he was a nice guy and all that. But I'm glad I had learned some sense. So, but learned a little sense. Just have a little sense.
Sure. T9.
But he had some issues. But he was trying to. Well, if we get married, then you can't talk to your ex relatives. You can't talk to these people, or we, he was trying to already before. Now, if I was thirsty, as they say,
Right, come
if
on.
I was
Yes.
thirsty,
Yeah, that's
then
it.
I would have said, oh well, he was all fit. Yeah, he a
Right,
preacher.
right.
He played for the Buccaneers back in the day and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Nice like
Hang
that.
on.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
hang on.
So and then he was trying to dictate my life.
Right, that's it.
And trying to well we got married, you can't do this, and who you couldn't talk to. And what? So but if I didn't know who I was,
Right.
I would have failed for that. I would have, I would have been falling back into another trap. So making sure that you know who you who you are. Find you and love you. Begin to love you, like Jewell said. Go, take yourself out to eat. Take yourself to the movies. Enjoy your time alone. Go watch a sunset. Go take Zumba or line dancing or something.
Right.
Do something to make you happy.
Right.
Do something that make you happy, because it's nothing worse to me than hear our women say that I'm alone. I'm so lonely. And then when they're in that lonely place, then they go and pick up something that, something illegal that don't belong to them.
Right.
So that's what I say. Just you sign the papers. It's a new beginning now. It's time to start a new chapter of life, and enjoy all that comes with that. Cause I'm that's why I say I'm selfish. I'm just enjoying. I really am. I'm just
That's awesome.
No, I want to thank both of y'all for coming and sharing y'all's story. We really appreciate it. Thank you. You want to wrap it? All right. Well, thank you, TIL, for joining us again for our Pastor's Perspective podcast. And we will see you next Monday at 7 p.m. Here comes the church.
Here comes the church. Peace out.